All right. I would entertain a motion for the approval of today's agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
It was moved and seconded by Neil and Davey to approve tonight's agenda. All those in favor? Opposed? All right, we'll move on to consent items. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
It was moved by Gary. Is there a second?
Second.
Will second by Bruce. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now we're on to reports. Superintendent Wagner.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair, directors.
That's fun to say.
I know, I just had to say it, so welcome. Student representative, teacher representative, community. It's be a condensed report tonight. The first thing I want to do is keep us centered in our mission, and that is to ensure individual academic, social, and emotional growth that leads to engaged citizens and lifelong learners. And at that point, we're always learning. And you'll see tonight that one area I want to bring to report is the MSBA conference. And as learners, we had the opportunity last week too, which you'll hear later in some reports, to engage, collaborate, and really network and to be lead learners up in the cities with what is taking place across the state, as well as to hear from other colleagues. So great opportunity for learning, and I appreciate the board members joining myself and others in that opportunity. Darcy, you want to go ahead, please? Next one, please. On Monday, we are really exciting, and I want to give a special shout out to Executive Director Jennifer Walsh and her team, specifically Kaylee Grissom, in our first annual benefits fair. On Monday, the staff was invited back to the high school to listen from the providers in person on the general benefits that are provided to them, and to be able to ask questions, and it was a great support for our staff. We're very fortunate to have a wide array of benefits for our staff, as well as this event, and we're hearing it was positively attended, as well as the feedback was amazing. So thank you for that, and it was a great opportunity to build forward for next year. And the final piece I want to bring to attention, at the last board meeting, I spoke to and proposed our North Star, our draft of our strategic plan. Tonight's the opportunity to engage in hopes of, as a group of directors, that we move forward with our strategic plan. We started with really the story wall over a year ago, really hearing the history of Albert Lee schools for many, many decades. And that really grounded us into where we came about from our strategic plan draft. So that'll come before the board tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Wagner. Neil, do you want to start? Sure. It's been a while since you've been able to start.
There we go. As the rest of you, I attended the conference last week, and it seems like it's a requirement that we have bad weather for the tournaments in March and then the MSBA conference in January. I attended 3 workshops. The first had to do with artificial intelligence, which I think was one of the main thrusts of the entire conference this year. And it's like so many other things philosophically. Artificial intelligence is neutral. It is neither good nor bad, as I was just explaining to Angie. It's how we use it that makes it good or bad, and it's the onus is on us to make sure that we don't embrace anything about artificial intelligence that can be destructive and use it in a positive manner, and it does have a lot of positive applications. Also attended a workshop that was designed to indicate a manner in which teaching reading can be inclusive. That means reach out and address the needs of all students, no matter where they come from. That was a noble engagement, but I didn't really notice any evidence of how one would go about making sure that you don't miss anybody, nobody falls through the cracks. Was kind of encouraged to note that their approach or the device that they are using is very similar to ours, letters, which Tanya is very familiar with. And I won't get into all the details of that. It's fascinating, something that a secondary teacher really never got into because I didn't teach students how to read. They already knew how to read, hopefully. And I was I always admired those who, in the elementary grades, who actually taught students who could not read how to read. That's amazing. And then the third session had to do with mathematics, and it was really exciting. The one thing that I got from that is that the person who was presenting this workshop was from the Minnesota Department of Education and dealt with mathematics specifically. And there's a lot of mathematics instruction that's misses the mark, and specifically mathematics should not be a long, tedious exercise in memorizing stuff. Rather, it should be based on what mathematics actually is all about, relationships and patterns, and identifying those relationships and patterns and dealing with them. And another thing that I would like to mention relative to that is it reminded me of the days long ago when I was involved in the math department, which seems strange because I was supposed to be an English teacher. But we would go every spring to the Minnesota Council of Teachers of Mathematics. A representative group from K-12 in mathematics, and attend that conference. And it was very similar to the MSBA. It's a conference where people who are of the teachers of mathematics in Minnesota would present things that worked. And it was one of the best experiences, professional development for math teachers. And if we aren't doing that, we probably should. Something to look into. That's it.
All right. So I attended the MSBA conference last week, and it was a great experience. The best part for me is honestly spending time with the other board members because we're very restricted outside of board meetings and how much we can talk. So I rode up the first day with Neil and Bruce, spent quite a bit of time with them, and had a great day on Thursday. Nice dinner. Bruce and I chickened out and went home early with Ron on Thursday night because of the weather rumors. But that was just a good drive home, too. That might have even been my favorite part of the night, just that conversation, driving back. As far as the conference goes, the main focus was on AI and computer science, and it maybe wasn't as exciting as last year, but it was a very good message, very timely. No doubt AI will change everything in society, especially education in a lot of ways, so it's interesting to think about that. I feel like I had something else to say about that. It's not coming to me. That's all I got.
Well, I was not able to attend the conference, but I shared a positive medical report with Ron, so that did go very well. I did express my appreciation to Principal Kinnis about the article she wrote about social emotional education. I conveyed to her my feeling is probably one of the best presentations of that topic that I've come across. So I think that has some value to our community to have talent like that and to express what we do. Ron spoke at our Lions Club and shared the strategic plan and did a very nice job and got a free lunch out of the deal, so you're gonna like that. I did not attend as a board member, but I did attend the Civic Improvement Project forums. I was curious about the Civic Arena because we have a big operation there as a school district, so it was good to get behind the scenes and see where the needs were there. And, oh, I was hoping to judge a robotics competition, but weather took that away, so hopefully next time. So that's my update.
Thanks, Gary. Bruce? You.
Last week before the convention, we had a Teacher of the Year meeting. We're going to have a tea in the Commons area on February 21st at 3:45 for the nominees. As of last Wednesday, there were 56 nominees, and they're coming from, instead of just from the teachers this year, they're coming from the community and students and the teachers, so it's a good cross-section. I attended 2 roundtables at the convention. Transportation electrification plan was the first one, which means battery-operated buses. I'm not a big fan of battery-operated cars, but in this application where you have short distances, battery-operated buses probably make sense. There's funding available through the state, and they were saying that there's only 10 buses now in the state of Minnesota that are electric powered. But they said some of the costs can be offset for the charging stations, that when the buses aren't using them, the community could come in and use them and pay for that use. Then I attended Ask MSBA the Top 10 Questions. Now Jennifer probably knows all about this stuff, but effective May 28th, 2023, school districts school district employees who do not work or who work a significantly reduced schedule during the summer are no longer excluded from unemployment eligibility, so you probably knew that.
It started last year.
Yeah. Does Minnesota earn Minnesota's new earned sick and safe time? Do you know all about that too? So I figured you did. What is the definition of a teacher? You probably know that too. Who determines who represents each party in the bargaining table? Each party has got, or each side has got their choice of who they want. Then they talked about mediation. Let's see, what else? What can be discussed in meet and confer meetings? Let's see, that was about it for that, I guess. And then I attended a couple workshops. The first one was the power of the 3 Cs, collaboration, community, and connections. Painesville School District partners with the industry and the community, and they have a community foundation where some of the costs can be offset for some of the expenses that students use, like if a student wants to take welding, the foundation will probably buy the welding equipment that they use in the industry, so they're learning to weld on the same type of machines that they would possibly go to work for after school. They have a pilot program, Learn to Fly program, where the foundation bought a simulator that they practiced on, and the students would practice in that simulator, and then some pilots offered their time to take them up flying. They flew for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and the foundation paid for the gas. The pilots donated their time, and the foundation paid for the gas, so the foundation is helping offset some of the costs that make these programs go. Let's see, what was the other workshop on? Oh, protect your property. Dave probably knows all about this, but they talk about a capital improvement plan. I think Paul's got a good handle on the capital improvement plan from what we listened to a couple weeks ago. And then they talked about, which is interesting to me, a business interruption plan. If we would lose, they're talking about having enough insurance on your buildings and things, and they talked about this business interruption plan. The cost of moving students and things, let's say we lost Hawthorne at a tornado, what would it cost to move those students to another building, to another school, to a site off-site, or bring in portables and things like that? So they're saying, make sure you have some of things covered in your insurance plan. The cover some of the odd things that may happen to you, so I thought it was interesting. That's about it.
Well, I was hoping I got to go before Bruce because he took all my fun topics to say there about Teacher of the Year. I did want to mention today was the last day for the nominations for the Teacher of the Year. Like I said, we had quite a few nominations already. Had some meetings regarding the T coming up, still trying to figure out the location. I did want to report I had a lot of proud parents and guardians say that they were happy with the way that Hawthorne executed the kind of emergency situation there. A lot of parents came up to me and said they were really happy with the way it turned out. And it turns out like some people turned in chips and waters and pizza party kind of thing for some of the staff there too. So that was cool to see and hear. As a member of the All-Inclusive Park, we are coming up to our final stretch. We've had some meetings recently. We're trying to raise some money selling bricks, and we've got a polar plunge coming up. And we're looking for teams to jump in on that. And I've had people ask about getting some of the Albert Lea District staff included on jumping in on a polar plunge for the big freeze in February. Yeah. But that's, I wasn't able to attend the conference, so that's about all I've got to report right now.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. Just basically finished my 9th year of school board, so I finished my 9th conference. It's always fun to go to. It's as much about the meetings you go to as the people you meet. And of course, this year I had a whole lot more duties. So from speaking, and thank you for the people that were able to come and listen to me and ask me questions, so I didn't feel all alone up there in our district. And thanks to everyone, Darcy coming all the way up for the banquet. As good to stand up and get recognized as a group, but hey, it all works together. So it was a lot of fun. It was kind of shy on that Friday because of the weather, and it seems to be tradition up there. But we had another great keynote speaker, and we had at the board level meeting, our keynote speakers were discussed a little bit as positive and negatives. Probably weren't quite the inspirational style that we've had in the past, was my comment. And some people thought the AI one had a little bit of a platform maybe to look at the plan and the services that they offer, but nonetheless, very interesting information and engaging for all of us. Just a couple conference notes. This year was the largest for attendance. It was right at 1,500. The year before was a little over 1,400. Exhibitors, we were 4 over max capacity, so 228. And one of the more important things that a little feedback, had a little, had fun in, we talked about one of the conference items as we went to a budget meeting, and as Bruce had mentioned, and Jennifer's talked about some of these things coming up as far as the unemployment, and spending roughly a third of it in our first, not even quite a full year, has been kind of a concern at the state level, and it will probably more than likely be funding out there somewhere. We're only hoping it does, so it doesn't fall back squarely on the districts, but different things that we've talked about before. But it was, again, a very interesting conference. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. I was not able to attend the conference for the first time. I have torn my meniscus, so I'm waiting for surgery. So that was probably not the place to be with a torn meniscus. So I'm looking forward to, I appreciate the reports out, and I'm looking forward to, obviously, next year and spending time as a board. And I took some notes of some cool things that are brought back. So as you can imagine, I'm not really out and about doing lots of meetings right now, so that's all I have to report. So students, if you want to report.
Thank you. Okay, we don't have too much to report. I do have some friends on the dance team, and they had, I think you call it a dance meet this weekend in Byron. And the varsity team took first in kick and jazz, and then the JV girls got second in kick and first in jazz. And then I know that our esports team that we have at the high school, they qualified for state, and their tournament or whatever got canceled this weekend for the weather, so I'm unsure if they're going to reschedule that. And then last week on, I don't remember what day. Wednesday. We had a student cabinet meeting, and we discussed some of the classes that we would like to see in the future at the high school. And one of them that I thought would be cool was the plant science course.
All right. First off, I want to apologize for my tardiness. I work with community ed, and we do the project exploration. So I was over at Sibley today. I emailed Mr. Chalmers and asked how the mock trial done, and he responded with about a book long of response. So I got the summary. So overall, the Albert Lee mock trial teams received 16 individual judges award for exemplary performance. Clara Thompson, Kual Dual, and Alexander Schmidt won multiple judges awards. The varsity finished in 22nd place out of 56 teams. And yeah, Mr. Chalmers said that they were pretty nervous, but they kind of got at it, and they did pretty good. So we're pretty proud of our mock trial team. And then the student council met today because we are getting ready to start planning for Winterfest in February.
And our teacher report.
I can't though. Yes. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So I reached out to all of the buildings and I got no reports back with anything to share. So that must mean good things.
One thing that I forgot was I was going to be a judge as well with Gary for the robotics, and I took a 4-hour training and passed, so I could be like the person that leads the judges. So I'm like, oh, come on. So now I have that forever, so I can be a judge. So resume builder, yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your great reports, and I think. Not having a teacher report, we were able to have lots of reports of great things going on, so thank you. We'll move on to safe and healthy schools, nothing there. Curriculum and instruction, nothing there. So effective and efficient operations, 9.1. We want to move the school board from March 4th, the school board meeting from March 4th to March 7th. And so Ray can present the Step Q school board structure, practices, and governance, correct, right? So this is an action item. It's been moved and seconded to go ahead and change the date of our March study session. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That meeting will be moved. 9.2, strategic plan roadmap. Ron?
Thank you, Madam Chair, directors. So again, last week, we had the opportunity to discuss, or last board meeting, discuss our strategic plan roadmap, and we presented the draft. We're able to put, this is where I presented the draft at the Lions Club, and this was part of what we did. I did hear some feedback, and one possible change I heard from a director was going down to letter D and adding the word transparency. So that would be the only addition to what was presented last week. So at this point, I'd like to propose that we add the word transparency, which is absolutely a value of ours as we lead forward in improving our communication with the community and all stakeholders. So at this time, I present the strategic plan roadmap in hope of acceptance.
Okay, Neil made the motion to accept the strategic plan. Angie seconded. Is there any discussion?
I want to say, the thing that struck me about it is that there was a Minnesota School Board article about some of the core things that school districts should be focusing on, and our values represent everything out of that article. So it affirms for me that we're on the right track with what we're laying out here.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah.
Anyone I appreciate the feedback on adding transparency. I think that was a good addition to letter D for improving efficiency effectiveness. Any other feedback? All those in favor of the strategic plan? All opposed? All right, motion carried. Okay, we're moving right along. We have an update from Mr. Double on the Tiger Cub current status.
And as Executive Director Double is getting teed up and ready to go, I want to thank him for the presentation tonight. This is important information, and we'll have opportunity for questions after his presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Nelson, Directors, Superintendent Wagner, representatives. Bringing to you this update on the Tiger Cub Child Care. Let's see. There we go. So the state of our Tiger Cub, the Tiger Cub Child Care was planned in fiscal year 19 for that school year, opening in the semester or spring semester of 2020. When it opened, it was based on a couple of different premises. First, the Tiger Cub Child Care would serve 44 students, 16 of those being infants, 28 of those being toddlers and preschoolers. The attendees were a combination of district employees, students, as well as community students for those open positions that would be there. The budget was based on all student slots being filled every day of operation. So I refer to that as a 100% fill rate. That'll come up again later on in our presentation. No meal expense was included in those projections. The Tiger Cub, when we look at fiscal year 23, that expense was estimated at about $30,000 per year, but that was not included initially. The Tiger Cub Child Care Service was also built on a negative delta of $43,000. So continuing on and taking a look at our positions or how the staffing goes in Tiger Cub. Infants need to have a staff to child ratio of 1 to 4. For toddlers, it's 1 to 7, and for preschoolers, it's 1 to 10. So looking at those ratios, that tells us how many folks that we need working in that program. Our Tiger Cub rates for this year, our infants are at $230 per week. Our toddlers and preschoolers are at $210 per week. In looking at when we set those for this year, those rates are very comparable to other child care centers in Albert Lea. Tiger Cub Child Care is run through the Community Service Fund, which is a part of community education. Out of our community education fund balances that are able to be used, the eligible funds for those restricted funds, those are our 5 listed restricted funds up there. Other community services and the Community Ed General Fund are the 2 that are allowed to be used in a case of a shortfall for this Tiger Cub. Also, these unassigned general funds could be used in the event of a shortfall. And taking a look at the finances from the past 3 years. In fiscal year 21, the revenue expense shortfall was $55,798.37. We did receive a grant from the Department of Human Services for $8,500. And the rest of that amount was covered by an allowable general fund to community ed transfer of $47,299.37. In fiscal year 22, that revenue expense shortfall became $63,864.82. That entire amount was then used with community ed funds as an investment to cover that. In fiscal year 23, that number was $74,668.40 due to some grant writing that was done through the Department of Human Services. And those were the child care stabilization grants. We were able to bring in $38,821.40 to assist with that, leaving the remaining $35,847 to be covered, or I'm sorry, $35,847 to be covered in the community ed funds. We did use wraparound care revenues as well to assist with those. So knowing this financial information, we put some mitigation strategies in moving into this school year, hoping to improve our picture. Those mitigating strategies that we used, we decreased our staffing. We reduced by one position. We also reduced to one supervisor from 2 positions there. We increased our enrollment or fill rate. The daily fill rate is now up to 79.5%, with our average as of December 15th being at 66.5% for a fill rate. The previous 2 years did not reach 60% as an average. As an addition, we added drop-in care. Some positions or some slots, in the case of an impending birth, for instance, the spot would be reserved, however, would have to remain vacant until that child arrived. So we used drop-in care to try to fill up those extra days on the way, so we weren't committing to it being theirs for the whole year, but at least until that spot was going to be filled, we could have somebody come in if they needed that care. We did have 6 families use that, and 3 of them actually moved into full slots as customers. We also increased our rates for service this year to that previous mentioned amount. It was $20 a week that those services had gone up. The program does not fall under our free breakfast and lunch program, and the expenditure cannot be supported by the food service fund. Again, in looking at what that estimated amount from FY '23 was, that's about a $30,000 per year cost. Using September to December of 2023, we were able to take a look at that financial shortfall, and it averaged out to about $6,800 per month. If we multiply that times our 10 months of normal operation, we see an estimated annual shortfall of approximately $68,000. This shortfall is not sustainable by the Community Services Fund into the future. Putting those numbers together, the anticipated annual shortfall, looking at next year, would be about $98,000 as an estimate. We are currently beginning preparations for the closure of the Tiger Cub Child Care at the end of this school year. Any questions?
So you're terminating the Tiger Fund?
We would be closing the Tiger Cub Child Care.
John, what was you had made a comment in 23, that was 23, where you had like a $38,000 grant.
Yes.
Did that come through then for the center?
That had come through was the Child Care Stabilization Grants. Those grants changed between September and October of this year and became the Great Start Grants. But the Great Start Grants, the definition on those was much different than they were for the Child Care Stabilization Grants.
That was kind of a one-time deal.
They ran for a while, yes, yes.
But then you mentioned something about a $35,000 loss that year.
Sure, yep.
So you had like 78,000 minus, so add the 38, bring us down to around 40, then you had a 35, so pretty, I mean, that's just quick math, I don't remember
Yep.
the exact numbers.
Yep, it helped greatly to have those stabilization grants.
Is that program here at Brookside?
Yes, it was located downstairs on the first floor.
Just a couple questions that I have for you, John. You talked about the fill rate, that is at about 79%. Do you have an idea of infant versus toddler / preschool?
I do not have those numbers offhand.
Okay, okay. And because it's something I know a little bit about, the ratios for infants is much higher, are lower, meaning you have to have more staff for infants, so that's why I asked the question. Then for drop-in care, was the rate, it wasn't at the same rate as your other program, or the other slots, or was it?
It was slightly higher for the
Okay.
daily rate, yes.
Okay.
We were at 1.25.
And the increase this year, was that $20 on the infant rate and $20 on the toddler preschool rate?
On both, correct.
Accordingly?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
We've been in conversation with some local options to see if they're interested or available to do so.
With the 79.5% average daily fill rate, what does that equate
44 would be totally full, so roughly about 35. Yes. Mhm. And that number will continue to increase as students come into the program. There are some of those spots that are reserved, for instance, as an infant needs a toddler spot. We have to maintain an open toddler spot for that infant that's moving. Otherwise, they won't have a spot to be when they get there.
Do you know the ratio of school district staff or faculty that have their children there versus public?
Of the 44 students, half of those are district employee students.
Yep, go ahead.
I was, along with others on the board, involved in the implementation of this program, and it was, the idea occurred to me as a result of being on the Business Ed Committee and discussing daycare as a problem in our community. And the European model was brought up, and I guess that's the noble venture that precipitated this in the first place. In Europe, daycare evidently, as I understand it, is not a big problem because parents take their children to work with them. And it's a societal thing. Their governments consider that to be a valuable venture, and they fund it. And as it would seem, apparently that's not the case in the state of Minnesota or the United States of America. And I can understand it's not practical for us to take that noble venture upon ourselves and finance it when there is no financing available for it. It's an expense that could potentially drain us of our resources so that we can't provide those services that we need to provide. So until society decides that daycare is worthy enough to enable parents to take their children to work with them, it doesn't seem like it's practical for us to continue down that road.
Back in 1819, then we discussed it and finally opened the Child Care Center. I think, what a great idea. I mean, we really had a need within our system, at least for a certain number of students. But go back to the notes, there's a lot of questions by myself about the finances of this, and it was always very readily assured, pre-Jennifer, I'll say that, you had nothing to do with Jennifer, but that I saw an expense, a competition a little bit possibly, but our community is in such a need of this, like every other community, that it was a nice attempt to help the best we could. But now as you start seeing the numbers, I truly see where you're coming from as a district. And I mean, as we push forward with other expenses that aren't being funded by the state like I wish they were, this is probably the only other option. So I'm glad you guys have been able to track it and give it the yeoman's chance to make it work. So thank you.
I'd like to add too, John, looks like, I mean, it's a difficult decision, but it looks like you've made every effort to try to mitigate the shortfall through adjusting rates. How is it for staffing? Were we able to find the staff to cover the students we were serving?
Yes, we're fully staffed down there, and they've been really loyal staff staying with us.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? Thanks for your report, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Moving on to 9.4, policies for review, presented by Paul and Tanya, or just Tanya. Oh, okay.
So I was very much hoping that Paul would be here before this agenda item came up, but thank you, Chairperson Nelson and board members. Paul did give me some notes, and there were really very few changes and nothing of substance. In Policy 710, there were no recommended changes made to our policy committee, and the rationale is that only such transportation should be utilized in an emergency scenario only, and the administration needs to approve that through the superintendent. So no policy changes for 710. For 707, there were quite a few additions. They were all by statute. They were all fall under our current practices. So nothing new to the way we're doing things, just that the statute included now several more items, non-resident students, resident students to non-district schools, special services students, and a few others. So one note here, though, that we did maintain our eligibility in walk zones that the board established several years ago, so that continues to be part of policy 707. The rest of the changes were statutory and no change to our practice.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. I will be presenting the policy changes for 102 and then a series of 600 policies as well. Policy 102 is the equal educational opportunity. This one specifically looks at adding equal athletic opportunities to our students. This comes with the Title IX updates that were adjusted last year. Those impacted various policy changes that are currently up for review. So getting this in alignment with Policy 522, which is Title IX, adding the equal athletic opportunity. Moving on to the 600 policies. The 600 policies that are being brought forward today bring us in line with Minnesota State Statute 120B11. So many of the updates that you'll see there are directly related to that statute. 601, the school district curriculum and instructional goals. This one adds the statutory definitions that you see in that statute that I just referenced. You have also heard me speak to on numerous times the World's Best Workforce Plan. It updates the language for World's Best Workforce. It also deletes the obsolete provisions on reading to bring us in line with the current Minnesota READ Act language, so making sure that the old language has been removed and updates to the current ones. This is a policy that also specifically mentions having district requirements that align to a comprehensive strategic plan, which was good to see that we approved that roadmap tonight. So 601 is one that strategically has that language in it. Policy 603 looks at curriculum development. This is updating the statutory language for the District Advisory Committee. It also deletes curriculum development process. We continue to have District Curriculum Committee as our local committee name. This one's putting us in alignment with that statute language as well. Policy 604, instructional curriculum. This is an update to the newest academic standards, so aligning policy with the required academic standards. It also prohibits curriculum discrimination or discipline from the teacher lens, and then eliminates the civics test. As you may recall, a number of years ago, civics test was included as a requirement. Now it is being pulled out that it is no longer a requirement. So this eliminates civics as a graduation requirement. Policy 6065. This is the library materials policy. We previously had a local policy, 9110. We will now move to the recommended MSBA policy of 6065, and what was previously our local policy, that will become our procedures. The procedures look at, in the event of need for reevaluation of any materials, library materials, maybe it's wanting to revise access within the media centers, maybe it's online access to particular materials. The 6065 covers those areas. So it really defines the work of that committee to reevaluate. And then local policy 9110, it defines the procedures for that. So we'll keep that in place, the procedures. Thank you. Policy 613 is graduation requirements. This one is updating the definitions under that policy. This also adds a requirement of an ethnic studies course. We currently meet the ethnic studies standards through the courses we have, but by school year 26-27, we will need to have an ethnic studies course. This puts us in alignment with the MSBA model policy, and then it aligns those statutory provisions. 616 is our school district accountability. This is some changing in language. They no longer use the word graduation standards. It is redefined as academic standards and graduation requirements. So more all-encompassing to be the standards and the requirements. This one also adds some reporting requirements on our part to report back to the state regarding academic standards and graduation requirements. And then references back to the district advisory committee provisions that were previously referenced in 603. 620 is credit for learning. Again, looking at some updating of definitions there. There is some movement within MSBA model policy. 620 previously had the online learning as part of 620. MSBA has now moved that to 624 for online instruction. So online learning has been removed from 620 and is now standalone in 624. Credit for learning updates the PSEO requirements. Another exciting piece of 620 is this adds a healthcare credit for an employment. So students that work in a healthcare field can earn elective credits for their work experience. So this is a great elective opportunity for students that are working in healthcare fields, nursing home facilities, those situations. And then this one, we also just updated our weighted grades for those PSEO, CSI situations. And then finally, adding in 624, again, this is the movement for online instruction. Legislator updated online instruction language, and so this is replacing the old with the new. And there's some language from the previous statute and then updating that new language. And so in your board packet, you have that full new MSBA policy. So that is a updated piece with the movement between 620 and 624. That is the bulk of the 600 policies. Again, most of the changes within these policies are to address those statutory requirements in 120B.
Thanks, Tanya.
Thank you.
I would ask the board to, is there any questions that you have for Tanya before I ask my question for you? I'd like, yeah, we might have some questions, so just
That's
hang on.
okay. I won't go anywhere.
So I would ask the board to give feedback on, this is an action item. Do we want to take the policies all as one, or would you like to break them down specifically if there are any concerns on any of the policies? All at once?
Either way is fine. There are 3 that I would like to vote against, so we can pull them out, or I'm fine doing it all at once, and I'll just vote no in the group, so whatever is preferred.
Do you have any questions on the ones that you, okay, all right. So I think we'll go ahead and I'll entertain a motion to approve the policies as a lump sum.
Second.
It's been moved by Bruce and seconded by Gary to approve the policies for review tonight as an action item. There are 11. All those in favor? He made the motion to do them all at once, yeah. No, we're voting on all of them, doing it, correct? Yes. All those in favor of approving the 11 policies that have been presented tonight, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-2. Moving on to, my glasses. So now I would ask for a motion to move into closed session for labor negotiations. So moved. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. We're going into closed. Okay, we're moving back into our regular meeting, 9.7, Albert Lee Education Association 2023-2025 Master Agreement. This is an action item. I would entertain a motion for approval.
Second.
It's been moved by Neil and seconded by Gary to approve the master agreement for the Albert Lee Education Association 23-25 contract. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 5-2. We will, now move on to 9.8, moving into closed session. Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.